Maybe I can have it on in the background. All right. James, I want you to tell everybody who you are and where you're from while I get this set up, young brother.
What's going on, everybody? Hello. My name is James Lewis. Where am I from? I'm from San Jose, same place Otis is from. I currently live in, wow, it's been a long time, actually, been 5 years. I live in Medellin, Colombia. So what I do is I'm a business coach. One of the ways I put it is if you don't have employees, I'm a coach. If you do, I'm a consultant. And really, what I do is I help entrepreneurs evolve from, being, what we think of as an entrepreneur and being more of a chief executive, somebody who works on their business instead of in their business. Um, I created a teaching platform based on that, and I have tailored that to the Four Data Points Academy for real estate investors. So that is what I am, or who I am, and what I do.
Right on. Tavares, you with us? I think Tavares may be en route to the house. So I'm not gonna let him respond because I don't want him to crash trying to text and drive. My name is Otis James, folks. I'm a full-time real estate investor out of the San Francisco Bay Area. Actually, let me stop right there. Hold on. I'm a full-time real estate investor out of the San Francisco Bay Area. I spent the better part of 20 years in the multifamily commercial industry. I'm a licensed real estate broker in a couple states. I'm licensed in insurance. I ran a mortgage brokerage with my father for a number of years. I ran a real estate brokerage with my father for a number of years. I was a notary before. I had a national notary signing agent company. I'm a long-term hold investor, and I consult on multiple projects, not just my own, but other development projects, domestic and abroad. I had the opportunity to consult on some projects over in Africa, over in Senegal, and the country of Gambia. I What else? I'm the founder of the Four Data Points Academy. We make real estate investors. We take people from zero knowledge and they stay on with me until they no longer need to be. We are one of the only ones that have endless support and no end date, and we are branching into other areas. So I'm bringing in folks to head up some of these other areas. One of the areas is Ascend You, led by Dr. Alfred Smith. That is personal development, the psychology of sales. He calls it the science of sales and leadership. And he is certified and has the credentials to be able to facilitate those things. Reason behind adding that division of what it is we do is because all of these things should tie together. I can teach people how to invest in real estate, make money doing it. But when it comes time to scale and actually have a real estate investing business, then there are some additional things that you need to improve. And sometimes we got to learn it the hard way, as I have in many cases. On the entrepreneurial side, I took $585, went on, generated a company that went on to generate seven figures. That is not my only seven-figure venture that I've done, but I took that from pretty much nothing, utilizing an outsourcing business model. If you guys aren't familiar with what outsourcing is basically um, I position myself as a provider of a thing. And then when I get people that want that thing and they pay for that thing, I just hire other people that are already doing that thing to do it for me, and I mark the price up. So I did that multiple times. So I did that in one industry that I'm being vague about on purpose. But I also did that as when I was a notary. I decided that being a notary, I couldn't justify the time, and so I just positioned myself as a notary company and hired a bunch of other notaries to do the stuff. And that was over 20 years ago. So that same model has applied to me more than a couple times. I think I already said I was in the multifamily commercial industry for the better part of 20 years. I exited that industry overseeing about $650 million in multifamily commercial assets. And when I teach people about multifamily investing, I draw on my experience from that. All right, we're going to be getting a lot of phone calls today because I got a lot of things going on. So bear with me if I, you know, chime out or go blank just for a second. So when I'm teaching people how to invest in these multifamily commercial assets, I don't just teach them the acquisition side. I teach them how to operate it and be landlords. I also teach any real estate investor that is looking to invest in real estate and own property how to be an actual landlord, because that was my corporate job. I left that corporate job in 2021. But by then, I was already mentoring people. I was already investing all over the country. I had already, done well on the non-real estate entrepreneurial side, and it just didn't make any more sense for me to be there. I enjoyed it very, very much. I would even go back. I work from home 4 days a week, so I was very flexible in what I was able to do. But I enjoyed it very, very much, and it was 12% of my income at the time. So I can't justify devoting, 45 hours to something that's only 12% of my income. But I waited until I could no longer be of use. When I decided I was no longer giving 100%, then I went ahead and out of honesty and integrity, I told everybody that I was no longer able to give 100%, and I will stay on as long as they need to transition somebody new into the position. So that being said, so why you guys hear me talking about real estate all the time, and you guys also hear me talk about anybody on TikTok. If you guys want to come up, just go ahead and come up, and I'll go ahead and let you up. I'm not really the most savvy TikTok person, but feel free. So, so why? Well, so we teach people how to invest in real estate, and ultimately, have a real estate investing business. And when I say real estate investing business, I'm not just talking about flipping homes or doing the active stuff that you typically find in real estate. I'm talking about having an operation in place that you could step away from, and then it could run itself. So that is the ultimate goal. But even when you get to that point, there's other things that you were going to do, diversifying. I look at investing in real estate because it has so many different revenue streams within investing in real estate. You can flip homes, which, if you flip homes for any length of time, that that's not something you want to be doing for the rest of your life. But it's imperative that you understand how to do that, and that you can jump back into doing that when you need to, because there may come a time where you need an influx of cash and you want to invest in some additional cash flowing assets. So, flipping homes is just a part of what it is we do. That is not a long term plan for the folks that I train. Is that my shoe? Is that my shoe? Is that my shoes? I was like, whose gray shoe is that in the background? That shoe gonna be famous. All right. It's not a long term plan for the people that I train. But we want to get them in a position to where on that road to wealth, they have everything they need. So I'll teach you how to make the money, but I got to bring in consultants and experts to teach you how to keep it, and to teach you how to multiply it outside of real estate. And that involves quite a few things. That involves understanding how you should be structured as far as your entity. That thing is going to mess with me. Hold on, let me get that. Let me get this shoe. Hold on. That shoe going to mess with me all day. Y'all can't see it on Clubhouse, but that, hey, Gregory, what's up? I see you down there, brother. But that involves understanding how you should be structured. That involves understanding how to facilitate your pipeline. That involves coming up with a sales strategy. All of these different things that can be utilized for any business, we bring into real estate. So we have an event in October called Venture U. So we're taking 16, I think 17 people max. And in Medellin, Colombia, we are, I'm flying all the subject matter experts in to be able to go over the 8 things that we are going to be talking about today. Now, some of these things I had to learn the hard way. And the reason I had to learn them the hard way is because, now you guys know I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a real estate investor and an entrepreneur. So it's not always and or in my case. But on the educational component of what I do, the thing that hurt me the most is we grew too fast, too early, because of I think a lot of it had to do with the pandemic. So there were systems that I ended up having to put in place after the fact to be able to facilitate this growth, that if I had known before, then things would have gone a lot smoother. So in Medellin, Colombia, there are 8 things that we are going to focus on, and then there's some other things that are going to be specific to the business that you're in. Now, you guys on TikTok and you guys on Instagram, if you guys have any comments, feel free to go ahead and post them. If you guys want to chime in, just you can come up on stage on Clubhouse. You can come up on stage on TikTok, and I will, I'll take whatever questions. It could be real estate questions, or it could be entrepreneurial questions. Now, James, you spend more time on the business acumen side of things, so you can give me your opinion on how you approach these 8 things. And it's not just limited to 8, but there are 8 things that you absolutely have to address. Right now, we're getting into systems and processes and all these other things, but market research is very, very important. When I got into what we were doing, well, let's call it market research and validation. So when I looked at 4 Data Points Academy and what my purpose was, I saw a void in the market. And that void was real estate investing education was very, very expensive. And my closest 2 competitors are very well capitalized, and they have really good systems in place, and they dump a whole bunch of money into marketing. And that marketing is to get clients, as it should be. But what happened was it wasn't readily available for the everyday person. And I wanted to bring it to the everyday person, a person that maybe can't afford to spend $25,000 annually or $35,000 annually. With that money, they could have invested, and they could have had properties and started their own portfolio. So I got an understanding of what my competitors were doing, and then I came in and tailored what we were doing to fill that void. And the reason why that void was there in the first place was because it wasn't cost effective for them to fill it. And that void was unlimited support, because I know how people learn. And it's the information is one thing, but that's a very small part of it, because the practical application of the information, what you do with the information in the real world, can change based on your experience, your resources, your location, all of these different things. So there isn't a one size fits all situation to real estate investing. So I wanted to create an environment where people can learn the information, but also have support when they're trying to do it in the real world. And there's just too many variables to be able to teach everybody everything about everything, right, in real estate investing. So I had to do the research. I had to identify who my target market was. For me, it was the average everyday person, right? And I had to study my competitors. Um, and some of those competitors have reached out to me. Some of you guys that have been following me for a while know who they are. One asked me to be on a TV show. The other one reached out to me offline. But these are guys that you see all over Instagram, right? And I've got to where we are by we I haven't done any ads. I think we're just starting to do ads this month for our Venture U retreat, our business retreat in Medellin, Colombia in October. So these are things where I really had to hit my head on some of these things. Sales strategy. A lot of when the business comes easy, what I didn't really do. I don't like to be salesy, so I didn't have a sales strategy, and I didn't want to. I kind of James was talking me into a more refined sales strategy, and I just didn't want to do that. And but also keep in mind, I had other income to fall back on. So me scaling a business, there wasn't a lot of pressure for me to be able to do that. But number 2 is a sales strategy. How do you convert leads to paying customers? And that's something that that's a bridge you're going to have to cross in any business. Now, this isn't just real estate. This is any business. And if you can't define that process, then you're coming up short already on that. James, you got anything you want to add with as far as sales strategy and market research? Maybe some conversations that you've had with some folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So your business is going to be as effective as you make decisions. And so, um, with that in mind, the things that you learn, the things that we are talking about are geared towards helping you make good decisions. So on the market research, right? Uh, One of the things that you said, I'm trying to remember exactly what you said. But look, when it comes to market research, you got to know who you're selling to. But the other thing you got to know is how many of those people out are there out in the world, right? If you haven't put the energy into getting that information to know who your target market is, who is that person, then it's impossible for you to know how many of those people are there, right? So, one of the things we talk about is data. And you want to make your business decisions based on data. You don't want to make your business decisions based on emotion. And what does that mean, and how does that relate to market research? A lot of people just starting, right? Let's not talk about an existing business. Let's just talk about starting in the first place.
Yep.
So when you start a business and you haven't done market research to get data, right? Because we make good business decisions based on data. Then you're just making decisions based on your mind and kind of doing what you think is the right thing to do. You don't even know if the business can be profitable. You don't even know, what good looks like. So it's important to understand that information, and you get data to do that, so you can make your business decisions. From a sales strategy standpoint, you might get to it with the marketing, but one of the things you got to understand and is there's a difference between sales and marketing, right? And so a lot of people put energy and effort into marketing because they know they need to do that, right? Marketing is how you attract customers, right? But sales is how you convert the customers that you've attracted.
Yes.
And so if you haven't put together some sort of a strategy or a process around that sale, though, capturing those sales, then what'll happen is you're missing lots of opportunities. And then what'll happen is you're spending time doing things that don't produce dollars. One of the things that I talk about is, what are the income producing activities, right? What are the things that you do that when you do it, it generates a dollar, right? And so sales, 100% of doing sales effectively are things that produce a dollar. So that's what I would say about those two things.
Absolutely. And somebody had a conversation with me. They said, and mind you, folks, I have people calling me every day trying to sell me, hey, you need to implement this system and that system and this system and that system, and of course everybody can deliver, right? But in order for me to to learn some of these things, I had to do it the hard way, which means just how we present ourselves online. All right. So I put, and James, you know this, we've hired people to do website, then ended up scrapping it because it didn't work out, and then hired some more people to do it, and then ended up scrapping it because it didn't work out. We're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to be able to finally get the right fit. And we just did it again, because even though we were presented well, when I look at everything, the first thing you have to have a desire to be better all the time. And I think that's something that's just ingrained in entrepreneurs. And for me, you know, there's a certain level of professionalism that has to be maintained because of what other competition is out there doing. So we have to be better than all of them because, again, I mentioned they're very well capitalized, and they spend a lot of money into getting you to believe a certain thing. For me, the approach that I take is, look, I've been teaching, for free for years on these different platforms. So when people come into what I'm doing on the educational side of real estate investing, when they come into what we're doing, they already know me and they've already learned and they've already been able to go out there and at least perform to some degree, so they understand what I'm saying works. And I think that's the best marketing. But what happens is now we're having a scaling issue, right? Because there's a ceiling that you get to. I'm only one person, and we have, I mean, all together, there's probably about 5 of us that are involved in what it is we do, not including the things that I'm outsourcing now. And when you're starting a business, the scaling conversation typically doesn't happen until you hit that ceiling. The problem is nobody can hit that ceiling. Nobody can perform well enough, not nobody, but the people that are challenged with it aren't performing well enough to be able to have that scaling conversation. And that's why having a sales strategy is so important, because everything you do takes dollars, right? Everything you do takes dollars. And I knew I was going to have to cross that bridge at one point. So somebody was having a conversation with me and they said, okay, well, what's your sales funnel look like? And they broke it down into to 4 different categories, awareness, interest, decision, action. And they had a really good point. They said everything you do has to be in those four things, right? Awareness, um, what do you call it? Awareness, interest, decision, and action. So I started looking at things differently. And to James's point, there were things that were taking some of my time that wasn't generating dollars. And the the way that you're really dialed in is when you can predict the output by the input. For example, I know if I spend X amount of dollars, it's going to generate Y amount of dollars. And there's a lot of systems that have to be involved because it's data that's going to show you where you are and where you can go. So sales strategy is probably number two. Now, James, I'm asking you about marketing strategy, but marketing strategy for me, that's number three, right? And my marketing strategy, is now starting to shift. And this is going to be a hard conversation for some folks. This is going to be a hard topic for some folks. And look, I'm trying to, I'm a cut y'all because I love y'all. Um, Somebody told me you allocating too many resources to people that can't do anything for you, right? And part of the reason that I got into teaching people about real estate investing on this level was I would sit in on, development projects, and I'd sit in, whether it was city council or wherever it was. And I always positioned myself to where I didn't have to depend on whatever the outcome was. So I can be my authentic self when I walk into these meetings. And there was time and time again, I saw so many people in the community that were disenfranchised. I said, you know what? I'm going to bring this to the average person so they can gentrify their own neighborhoods and they can be the ones to benefit from that gentrification. And I've allocated time and resources into people that weren't my clients. And having this now, that's had to shift because there's certain things that you're just not going to fix with people, right? And if you are allocating time and resources to people that are not your clients, then you are sacrificing the benefit of reaching out to the people that are. So there's an opportunity cost with doing that. And this gets into people that have these passion projects, right? Well, I want to do this for the people, or I want to do this for the people. There's a way to go about it, but if your whole business model is tied around reaching out to a segment of the population that can't generate income for you, then you're going to be right along with them. So my marketing strategy, I had to really revisit, multiple times. Being on Clubhouse, I was spending too, what's up, Patricia? I was spending too much time, even though it's not a lot, it's only maybe a couple hours a week, but even that is too much time to be doing, that exclusively, which is why we ended up going, TikTok and Facebook and doing all these things simultaneously. And so I had to make better use of that time. I also had to choose my channels. Right now, at one point, it was just Clubhouse because I only had so much time, and I wasn't tech savvy enough to start tying all this stuff, these different platforms together. Um, but there were some other things I had to consider too: email marketing, SEO. Do I want to do paid ads? I don't really mess with influencers because I don't, they leave a bad taste in my mouth. But those are some things, some conversations that I had to consider. KPIs, key performance indicators. What data can I look at to determine whether I'm doing well or not? Because your result is going to be tied to whatever key performance indicators that there are, KPIs. So you have to develop, okay, well, what are your KPIs? Well, it takes data to be able to come up with that answer. Okay. Like, what do we do that works? And when it works, why does it work? And to what level does it work? Like, what's the final output? All right. So this is all part of marketing strategy. Consistency is really, really important. The reason a lot of people get burned out is because they're allocating time and resources. What's up? That's my daughter on Facebook commenting. The reason people get burned out because they're allocating time and resources into things that aren't generating the output that can sustain them. So I would get burned out all of the time and be like, I'm just not doing nothing, right? I'm not doing anything. But marketing strategy, all that's tied into marketing strategy. The next thing, number four, now, just to recap, We talked about James. You got anything you want to add on marketing strategy? I know you were alluding to that before. Do you got anything
Yeah,
you want to add?
yeah. So believe it or not, marketing starts with being crystal clear about who you are. And that sounds like it almost sounds silly, like, oh, well, I know who I am. But really, when you sit down and go through a process, not just kind of, oh, well, I am this and I do that. No, there's a process by which you go through and crystal clear define who you are and who you want to serve and why. Okay. Who are you? Who do you want to serve? And why? You get crystal clear about that. You start with your value, your business values, and understanding all those sort of things. Because once you're crystal clear about that, the first thing
Uh-oh,
Otis
James.
talked about
Hold on, James. I
was
think I got you on two places. You got to mute one of them. They'll hear you either way, but you got to mute one of them. Go ahead and mute the. Yeah, go to probably have to mute
here, I'm
Clubhouse.
just gonna log out of that. All right.
All right.
So the first thing Otis talked about was market research, right? So if you're not crystal clear yet on who you are, what do you research? Right? So, because what will end up happening is, you are one thing, and then you're marketing to a different audience. You haven't started right, right? So we got to start in the right place, which is getting crystal clear and defining who you are.
Absolutely. Now, this takes us to number 4: product or service delivery. Whether it's a product or a service, there's three things that you have to focus on initially. One is refining your offer. Two is making sure there's some quality control element, and three is collecting feedback. Now, I think three is really, really important. And those of you guys that are in our real estate family, you've been on those Monday roundups where we didn't have a topic. The topic for that Monday was, okay, well, where are people falling short? I sent out multiple communications on, okay, what areas can we improve? Because nobody's batting 1,000, like nobody's perfect. So my thought process was, okay, we can't be perfect. We've got to be able to improve somewhere. And maybe people just like me too much and they're just being too polite and don't want to tell me. So I would reach out and say, all right, well, how can we be better in this area? How can we be better in this area? Why aren't you able to perform? And that's part of the benefit of having no end date, because it takes a lot to have a service that is mentorship that does not have an end date. What you're doing is you're banking on your ability to be able to deliver that service at a level to where they no longer need you long term. And if they do, they are not needing you, but they are just a part of your community. And eventually they get to the point where they're contributing to the community, right? So I think it's very important to have that type of relationship with people that you are training or mentoring or whatever it is. But you got to refine your offer. James, remember when we had at some point we had like 8 or 9 different offers that we could do, right? And they were, some of them were, combinations of multiple offers. Now there's just 3. All right. It's either group curriculum with one-on-ones, or the top tier where we just find your first deal for you. Right. But what we were running into was people were having too much trouble trying to choose which one they should be in. And they were at all different price points. So now we made it simple, just 3. And we refined our offer by saying, hey, look, this is what we're going to teach you for 8 weeks. These are the fundamentals. These are the supporting lessons that can be applied to those fundamentals, those lessons. This is the practical application of those things and our role in supporting you in that. So the clearer we got, the better results we got, and the more comfortable people were, because they knew exactly what they were getting. And I took that for granted. I just thought, well, people know me and I'm saying this stuff all the time. Like, how do they not get it? Well, it's in my mind, but it's not as clear in everybody else's mind. So refining the offer was really, really important. The next thing was, and we're still in,
Hey, can I comment on that?
yeah, please do.
So you got to think about that as a thought process, because there's multiple ways that you can deliver too much information. And to Otis's point, there you can feel like you're saying something a lot. That doesn't mean who you're speaking to, whether it's your audience, whether it's an employee, whoever. But that doesn't mean they've heard it as many times as you said it. One of the things that I learned about adult learning, by the way, is adults will capture 35% of what you're trying to say, what you're teaching, because we just have a different attention span than younger folks, right? And so if you know that, that speaks to how much you should be messaging, right? And it also speaks to if you're so think about it this way: if you have an offer with five different things, right, and people aren't capturing it as much, well, you can't spend as much time on the offer as if you only had two. If you only had two, then you're only talking about two. If you're talking about five, people get lost in all of that. Otis, I got a funny story about how I learned that. So, as many of you know, I used to run Home Depots, and a lot of experience I got from managing big operations for giant corporations, right? So I used to manage Home Depots, and one of the things that I observed, it happens in the tile aisle where people buy tile. And so if you go in Home Depot, you go in the tile, they got all these different displays, right? And so I would watch customers sit there and look at all the different choices,
That's me.
and 100% of the time, they, they look, the husband Will would look at his wife Martha and say, "Oh, why don't we go home and think about it, right?" And then they'd come to us and say, "Hey, can we take these samples home so we can think about it?" So I went and I told the team, "Stop that. Let's show me the top two. What are the top two producing ones?" And then I want you to put out front a big giant display of the top two. And what do you think happened? Sales exploded, because then people only had two choices. It was very, very simple, right? And they're gonna choose the most popular ones, just like everybody else did, right? But now they've got a clear choice. So it's interesting. That's how I learned that.
That is the worst place in the world for me to be and be able to make a decision is looking at paint swatches because there's always a better brown and there's always a better blue. And there's 1,200 blues, browns, whites. That is, I think that's going to be my hell. Somebody said everybody's got a different version of hell that they're if they go to hell. I think that's going to be mine, trying to pick out paint swatches. But he's right, and that's one of the things that I think, James. I think you actually shared that with me when I was considering scrapping a lot of the offerings that we did. So that's a good story. So we're refining your offer, ensuring consistent quality. So quality control. I want to touch on that. Collecting feedback. I just went over, but there has to be some sort of quality control. And when one of the challenges that I had was I was trying to keep prices down and not outsource things to other people. So that's a double-edged sword. The one side of things, I got really, really good at doing certain things, so I no longer have to outsource it. The other side of things, that it's occupying my time and I should be growing the company and implementing my vision. So again, it's a double-edged sword. But one of the quality control things that people often overlook is the feedback component based on a segment of the service they're trying to offer. Now let me clear that up. So if I have a lesson, I'll go ahead and draft the lesson and simplify it as much as possible. What's simplified to me may not be simplified to somebody that has never dealt with that thing before. And if they've never dealt with that thing before, then I have to have some sort of mechanism to get an understanding of their experience with that thing. And a lot of people just have a product or service and they just put it out and let the chips fall where they may. And they don't want to allocate time and resources into doing things over that they've already done. And I'm crazy about doing that, right? I have lessons that I've done 5 times over, same exact content, but there wasn't, consistency. And let's say I'll do in 2022, I did maybe 15 lessons. Well, in 2023, we changed the design. So now there's no consistency. The front cover looks one way, and another lesson, it looks another way. That's not okay with me. Some people are like, hey, this is a newer lesson. That's what it looks like. Now, that's a small thing. But if you'll let that happen on a small thing, then you'll let it happen on the big things. So product or service delivery is number 4. conversation you have to have.
Hey,
Go ahead.
real quick on feedback.
Mhm.
So one of the interesting things, and it's something that I understand because I've got a bunch of different clients. But if not, you wouldn't understand this, or you wouldn't know this information I'm getting ready to say. So imagine that you have a job, right? And you see a review, or you hear about a review about that company. It's just a review, right? You might think, okay, whatever. But what happens, one of the things that I've observed is entrepreneurs, because it's their business, they end up taking feedback personally,
Mm.
and they almost feel like it's a personal attack, and they get emotional about it. And what we got to understand is that feedback, two things we want to understand about feedback. First of all, feedback is gold. Feedback is absolute gold. You should love feedback. You should seek feedback. Feedback is your gold. So there's two things you want to understand. Number one, it's just data. Don't take it personal. It's just data. Okay. But number two, it is your customer literally telling you how to make more money.
It's
That's
true.
what you got to understand about feedback is they're literally saying how to make more money. You can't look at it as a complaint. Look at it as your customer, somebody who either wanted to buy from you or did buy from you, literally saying, hey, this is an issue. You'll sell more stuff if you fix this. So that's feedback everything. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. The number 5 is customer experience and retention. I think that is one of the most important components of running a business. Customer experience, right? Customer experience. For example, how's your onboarding process? What type of support do you offer? What retention strategies do you have? So we have a documented onboarding system that, now that I'm saying it out loud, we're switching platforms, so I'm going to have to completely redo, which is another thing. You gotta redo all of the. If you change one thing, everything that's tied to it, you got to change too. I've seen some people slip in there. But onboarding, I got to make it easy for people to get value quickly, right? I got to make it easy for them to get value quickly. Now, fortunately for me, teaching people how to invest in real estate, it's easy to do that. If you're offering a product, it's going to take some more thought. How do you make sure that people get value really quickly? And when you're offering a product, I'm going to ask you that question in a second, James. How do you make people get value more quickly when you're offering a product? So give me that. That's coming to you. Support. Offer real accessible help channels. How do you offer support with people? Now, the folks that are investing in real estate, I understand that you can't sit behind virtual classes, write down, you can memorize everything you learn, and then go out there and be successful. In the world of real estate investing, especially because things are different state to state, county to county, right? And everybody's situation is different. I have said it before, people have different resources, different credit standing. Some people are better capitalized than others. Some people have time restrictions. You got to survive first, right? So we had to have a way to make what we do accessible and to give people support when they need it. So there's 4 opportunities a week for somebody to come back and get help if you don't have one-on-ones with me. The people that have one-on-ones, I'm not talking about those folks. They got my cell phone number. They're typically in the trenches actually getting stuff done. And a lot of the value and support comes with me talking them through those challenges in real time and not saying, hey, well, we'll go over that next week at class, because they need help right now. Because if they don't get the help right now, they could lose money. There's contracts that could expire, right? There is contingencies in these agreements that can expire, that could cost you money. People have earnest money deposits on real estate, and if there's an issue, the delay could put that deposit in jeopardy. So, that's actually part of the scaling issue. We only allow so many people to come in our program with one-on-ones, because I make sure that they can call me directly, which means if they have a problem and I'm out to dinner with my family, I don't care if it's Christmas Day, I'm getting up and I'm taking that call. That's how important it is to me to make sure that that level of service is available, because when people do this, there's a lot of anxiety. And by this, I mean, start learning how to invest in real estate. It can be overwhelming. And I got a promise to them to take them to the promised land, regardless of what challenges we come across. So that's a commitment that I made. Now, will I be able to do that forever? Well, I'll have systems in place that could facilitate the same process, but the goal is going to be the same, to offer real accessible help channels, right? The third thing in within the customer experience and retention, and James, you can chime in whenever you feel on this, because I know you actually had to deal with some of these loyalty programs when you were on the Home Depot side. Retention strategies. How are you keeping people interested? What loyalty programs do you have? What follow-ups do you have? What referral incentives do you have? Well, we do continuing education. So we understand that the environment, now I'm just talking about real estate investing education. I'm not talking about the investing itself, but we understand the environment is going to change over time. For example, if you were a good investor in 2021, the things changed in 2023. Everybody's a good investor when interest rates are 2.5%, but are you still a good investor when interest rates are 7% or 8% or working with hard money 9, 10, and 11%? Well, I have to have a space for people to come back and be able to learn how to navigate in that environment without them having to pay again. And some of these folks joined me in 2021, and in 2023 there was a major shift. Started in 2022 when interest rates kept going up, major shift in 2023. So we had to focus our education on their actual situation and how we can get them through that. And in many cases, it was, how do we structure stuff creatively? How do we invest in debt? How do we land on property and understand the proper documentation to do it so they can make money outside of just flipping homes? All right. James, you got anything you want to add on customer experience?
Yeah, so there's a data point called the lifetime value of a customer. Okay. And so what that lifetime value means is over the lifetime of a particular customer's experience with you, how much will they spend? And it's an important piece of data because most entrepreneurs just think about what they're selling right now, right? If I sell a $50 product, I made 50 bucks. If I recognize that the person who bought the $50 product will buy more stuff from me, right? If I sell a different product, they'll come back and they'll buy that product too. If I sell a service that goes with the product, they might buy that service too. Like your existing customers are the most important customers you have. A lot of times we spend more time, and we do. It's right to spend more time finding new customers, but where a lot of times we miss is going back to the old customers and coming up with new ways to sell to our old or our existing customers, not old, but our existing customers. And so one of the ways that you do that you capture all of that stuff, and Otis talked about the word consistency. This kind of goes towards that consistency and processes. Is you don't want the customer to be asking, "Hey, what do I do next?"
Yes.
Right? That answer should be obvious. It should be clear. So think about the your favorite store to shop online, right? You log on to your computer or your phone, right, or the app. Okay, there's a search bar. Okay, and that search bar might have a drop down, right, with categories. And so I'm going to pick the category of what I'm looking for. And there's some pictures, and then I can see the pictures, right, within the category. Maybe it's a list, right? Is your list alphabetized? Great, because it's easy to find that. Okay. And now I'm going to pick the product. When I click on the button for the product, does it automatically take me to the checkout, or do I got to figure out how to get to the checkout? It probably automatically takes you there. At no point in that process does the customer have to ask, "Hey, what do I do next?" So think of everything else your customer experiences, and it should be seamless the same way. They should never have to ask, "What do I do next?" It should be very obvious to them in the way that you build your processes.
I'm so glad you said that, because I had consultants come in and look at our website and the workflow for our website. And there was a point where, it was our website was very, very functional. I'm not going to say the company that did it, because they're actually a pretty good company and they have outstanding customer service. Anytime we needed something, they were like right there. But the technology, there was one point, I forgot what it was. It wasn't in the normal. It was something small where somebody could pay for the service. And another thing, James, we've been telling people not to go to our website and swap our credit card for so long that now people they'll just come and be like, all right, well, can you invoice me? But there was one point where you pay for the service and it takes you through a very, very short process. But there was a minor point where I thought, it's not evident enough what to do next or what to select. And it was that one little thing that made me fire these people. And this is after putting thousands of dollars into this situation. And it may be, and the consultant that I brought in to look at it actually pointed that thing out. And I had them go through every aspect of our website and tell me what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. And the reason I had to do that is because the people that designed the website did a really good job. We always got a lot of compliments on our website. It was very, very functional, and it was kind of an all-in-one situation. The CRM was, built into it, but it wasn't good enough to somebody that was coming in that I paid to come in. I didn't pay outside of that. They paid them to come in, so they were unbiased. And we ended up having. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna scrap it and I'm gonna redo the entire thing from scratch. And this takes me into the next important component. Let's call it number 6. So for you guys that just tuned in, we're talking about the 8 must knows when starting a business. It was market research and validation. That was number 1. The second one was having a sales strategy. The third one was a marketing strategy. The fourth one was product or service delivery. Number 5 was customer experience and retention. And number 6, this one just blew me out the water. As a matter of fact, I'm flying somebody into Medellin specifically for this topic: operations and systems. Now, James, I know that the first thing when you're consulting, the first thing that you ask when you are consulting with a business owner is, what are your systems? Am I correct or am I wrong?
Process
Yeah.
systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why is that?
So actually what I say is walk me through your process.
Mhm.
So
Right.
not tell me about it, not walk me through it,
Right.
right? So I can experience it. So here's the reason. If you have a challenge in your business, or you're trying to create some sort of solution or thing in your business, where things go wrong always is process. And so I always ask 3 things if there's a problem. Okay. The problem is either you don't have a process, right? Or number 2, you have a process, but somebody's not following it. Or number 3, your process is broken. Your process needs to be refined. There's something wrong with it, right? It's always one of those 3, always, always, always. And so where systems come into play, is systems fix their processes, right? They're built-in processes, and you put them together to create processes. Systems are all about processes, and they're about improving process and making them more efficient. So, for example, if you're handwriting invoices, right, get a system that does your invoices automatically. And so now you've cleaned up an entire process and made it more smooth and more efficient and looks better, all that sort of stuff. So that's where I go with that.
And for me, it was this is I was already okay with, the way we were doing. We had some things that I felt that needed to be refined. But also keep in mind, you only have so much time. As your first 5 years in your business, you're figuring it out, right? And I figured a lot of these things out a little later, to where it cost me a lot more. But one of the things that I needed to focus on for our operations and system was document processes, like what SOPs, right? So we needed to have an SOP for onboarding, had to have an SOP for what our sales process, an SOP for certain programs within our programs. We have something called Deal Maker's Dream, And in Deal Maker's Dream, those folks are already in our mentorship program, and we find the deal for them. We support them in setting up the contractors, and we kind of hold their hand through the rehab, right? The good, and if things go sideways, then we help them navigate, the challenges. But there needed to be a process within that, and so that was a very, very important component of what it is that I was working on with respect to my overall business plan. Now, when I did my business, I have my business plan done, and I didn't do the business plan because I wanted to get funding. I did the business plan so I would be forced to identify every single detail of my business, so I can determine how far we wanted to go, whether I wanted to get into a space where we can franchise it, and all these other things. So a couple people that I gave my business plan to, they were like, "You, you may want to just cut this down a little bit." I said, "Well, how many pages?" They were like, "Nah, you probably want to knock off about 60 pages of your business plan." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "You're getting like really, really granular, which is great, but nobody's gonna read this, right?" So but it wasn't the business plan again. It was the process of doing it made me look at a lot of specific details. SOPs were one of those things, right? Sales, fulfillment, delivery of service, and all of those things. The second thing that is important, and these aren't in any order, we're talking about operations and systems, is the tech stack. When you hear the word tech stack, when you hear the words tech stack, those are all of your digital, your CRM, your email marketing, your scheduling software, your accounting software. That stuff is so, so important. And because technology has changed in the last couple of years, like we didn't have AI doing a lot of this stuff in the last 5 years. It's so much more important because that's how you're going to keep up with your competition. That's also how you're going to free yourself up so you can do what you're supposed to be doing as the vision leader, and that is implementing the vision and leading, right? Time management is another thing. When we talk about operations and systems, processes, right, are involved in that. Time management, that is something that gets overlooked a lot, even by me, because as James alluded to earlier, you have to be devoting time to things that are going to generate revenue, because ultimately you are going to have to scale up, which is going to take revenue. And you've got to have systems in place, like I mentioned before, to the point where by looking at a particular input, you can gauge what the output is going to be. If you can't do that, then you're falling short somewhere. All right. So document processes, SOPs for marketing, sales, fulfillment, all of these other things within that category, your tech stack, your CRM, how are you engaging with people? There was a point where I was physically responding to every single person, and I still like to do that because I still can. I mentor 300 and just under 350 people right now, and probably about 10% of them are active at any time, so I still enjoy that process. Now for new customers that come in and new people in our CRM, there's an automated component to it, so I can still service them by training AI on everything we do, so they don't have to wait 10-15 minutes for me to get to it. So that was something with respect to my tech stack that was really, really important. And I had to bring consultants in to show me how to do that, because I'm tech savvy, but I'm not tech stack, today's technology tech savvy, right? And most people aren't. That is a huge learning curve. Just this week, just going through our system, it's so robust that I've been on, 15, 16 hours at a time, just all the things that it can do, so I can add value to the people, to our existing customers, not even just the new customers, to our existing customers. So operations and systems is number 6. Document processes, tech tools, time management. All right. James, you got anything you want to add to that before I go to number 7?
Yeah, I mean, I would add accountability to that. You know, the way I define accountability is, did you do what you? There's 3 questions. Did you do what you said you were going to do? If not, why not? And then what are you going to do about it? So when it comes to, again, our processes and all those things, if there's some sort of a flaw, when you dig in and ask those other 3 questions about processes that I said before, right? Which is, either it's broken or somebody's not following or you don't have one. Well, the next thing is the accountability piece, which is, okay, did we do what we said we were going to do? If not, why not? And then how do we fix it? What do we do next?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So number 7 is financial planning. Right now, there's 8, and I'll do a quick recap. We started with market research and validation. Then we went into sales strategy, marketing strategy, product or service delivery. We went into customer experience and retention. We just went over operations and systems. The 7th thing is financial planning. Budget. Know your startup costs. Like, and you know what's a good James, a good show to watch? You probably already know what I'm going to say, but Shark Tank. I was it was a couple of years ago, and I was watching Shark Tank, just episodes, and I was writing down every single question they were grilling these people about to see if I know the answer. Now, I don't want to sell my business, and I don't want any investors, but these were important things that I needed to know. And back then I was like, I don't need to hire no consultants. I got Shark Tank right here. And I'm already doing well enough. I didn't make 7 figures in the business. No, it didn't matter. All right. So I was looking at all the questions, and I was like, okay, that's something I should know. I should know, with respect to marketing dollars, how much I put in, how much that's going to generate, right? Things like that. So no startup costs, know your burn rate, know how you're spending your money. All right. I'm looking at all of the different, our tech stack and all of the different uh, technology that we're utilizing. And I had it audited. And there was an enormous amount of redundancy. I was using tech that was overlap in other tech that I was using. So I went back and I started getting rid of some of this stuff. That's why our website platform is going away. MailChimp, we're not using MailChimp anymore. ClickFunnels, we're not using ClickFunnels anymore. We have all of that, centralized, and now all of these systems talk to each other. Our biggest complaint as an organization that teaches people how to invest in real estate is that I didn't know about you first. I dropped 25 grand in this other program, and now I'm here with you having this conversation. I dropped 40 grand in this other program. Now I'm here having this conversation with you. So, you know, I don't like being salesy, because I understand that, in my opinion, we have the best product, and the data tells me that we have the best product. So we had to find a way to be able to deliver that product and be sustainable at the same time. We had to remain solvent at the same time. Keep in mind, we allocate time and resources to people in perpetuity. Like that, they don't pay again. So if you're allocating time and resources, what they paid, you prorate that over the relationship, and it's next to nothing if they're with you long enough. So we had to have a way to be able to navigate that. So understanding startup cost and burn rate and all these other things, those are really, 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 really important. You got to be able to track income and expenses. Use a system, even if it's simple at first, right? QuickBooks, okay, great. Have a CPA, great. But you've got to know what you're spending, because it can get really out of hand, really, really fast. It can get out of hand. So, that's just something to be mindful of. Okay, every dollar
Yeah, like
counts.
sometimes we can just write something down. Like,
Yeah,
do I need to buy this software? Can I just write it down?
yeah. Yeah. Do you know how much software I bought twice? Like I've been looking, I'm always looking for new tech, and it's never good enough, right? It's if you guys that are entrepreneurs, it's never good enough. So I'm always looking at how can we be better? And then I'll see something and I'll say, oh, that I could use that. That's some really cool tech. Let me go ahead and sign up. And I put my email address in, and it says, you already have an account with us. I've done that multiple times and just have not used it. And I'm so busy that I didn't have a dedicated person to be able to manage all the tech, because, again, I wanted to keep overhead down, because the whole purpose was to bring real estate investing education to the average person. And if I've got to start hiring people to do all these other things, then now we're talking about an entry level of $20,000 instead of the $6,000 that it is. All right. So, and that's $20,000. That would be $20,000 one time. Even if it was $20,000 at one time over the length of the relationship, per customer, we would be spending too much. So I did some of these things myself, and got really good at it too. By the way, like I went to school for graphic design. I didn't finish, but I went to school for graphic design, so I kind of nerd out to some of this stuff. So I do more than I have to on my own because I enjoy it. But again, if you're talking about scaling up, you've got to have a system in place so you're not actively doing everything. All right. Now, plan for funding. We're talking about financial planning. Plan for funding. If I see one more person jump on Instagram in a hoodie and some Timberlands telling you how to credit card stack and get money for an LLC, I'm going to lose my lunch. All right. Get money first, worry about funding later. And somebody had, this is actually something that I adopted because when they said it, it kind of struck me differently because I had already crossed the 7-figure mark. But when they said what they said was, you're not even ready for funding until you've already made $1 million. And I thought, okay, I can see why he would say that. But there was a time where I was like, how am I supposed to make $1 million if I don't have funding? How are you going to pay back the funding you get? They're going to look at, and this is, I'm a licensed real estate broker, folks, but real estate brokers can also represent people in buying and selling businesses. So we have to be able to value a business using different methods and so on and so forth. So the reasoning behind that is, once you've made $1 million, you've already been able to. Now, I'm not talking about institutional funding yet. When I say you're not ready for investors until you've made $1 million, that's what I'm talking about, not institutional funding. But like, I'm not talking about getting a loan so you can buy inventory, and so that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about investors. So, and this is coming from one of venture capitalists that I respect, and he said the reason that is the case, that you're not ready for investors until you made $1 million, is because we know that once you've made $1 million, that you just need to fine tune systems and processes. And we know that you've already had to navigate a lot of the challenges that can keep you from scaling or keep your business from reaching its maximum potential. So once you've made $1 million, now you're ready, right? Now, there's also an understanding of how to use debt. Okay. Just because you can get a loan for $100,000 for your business does not mean you're going to automatically be successful. If you don't have a plan and you don't have data to support each decision that you make when it's time to deploy some of that capital, then your situation is just going to get a lot worse. So financial planning is a very, very important component. James, you got anything you want to add to that before I move on to the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm brought in a lot to consult, with venture capitalists and firms like that, and at either startups, all sorts of stuff. And so, one of the things you got to understand about the way investors think, like institutional investors, like Otis is talking about, is look, we're always doing the math. Like myself sitting in the room and any other investor that's in the room, we're everything. This is how I explained it to somebody, because afterwards I had to kind of help them through some of the mistakes they made. Is what I said is, look, when you're in that room, everything you say is a reason for us to do some math. Like we're looking for it. Like we want to hear, like and you'd be shocked at the things that you can say that give us reasons to do some math, right? Like, for example, if you say something about the the your market, right? The first thing I want to know is, well, how big is the market size? Like, if you said, oh, my close rate is this, okay, well, out of what? What's the what's the number that you started with? So I can do the math on what you're going to do, because I'm just going to take that and extrapolate it, right? And if imagine that just like Otis talked about, imagine if you scaled it with that math, and then I already know what your potential is on your business, right? It really, that's why presentations don't need to be very long. Like you can just give us a few basic information and we can do the math in our heads like very, very quickly, right? And so one of the points that Otis made about when you're ready for funding, if you haven't generated enough income, you haven't created enough data for us to trust, right? We need to see some history, some data. And if you haven't generated that income yet, then you ain't ready to start, right? Like I always joke, like there's a line in a T-Short song that I never really understood
What's the line?
until
What's the
I I got till I kind of grew and matured in business. And what the line is he says, "You got what it takes, but not enough to get started." So there you go.
Yeah, no, that's the case more often than not, unfortunately. But it's okay. You can always learn this stuff, right? You can always learn this stuff. What keeps people from reaching their maximum potential is they don't know that they need to learn this stuff. They are maybe, let's take, for example, let's say I'm selling plates out of my house and people like my plates and people want to buy my plates, right? Cook food, right? And I got a little business doing that. That's great. But you're now it's a scaling conversation. And if you think you're just going to scale, but look, the natural progression of things is, oh, I should get a food truck and then I could get a restaurant. Okay, but if you don't know things like about the insurance you need to have, how this is go we're going into number eight, legal and structure. If you don't know about those things and you don't know to ask about them, then you are exposing yourself to some extreme risk and liability, because if something goes sideways and you're not structured the right way, you can lose your personal assets. And I live in California, which is the most litigious state in the union. Everybody's looking to, people will sue you for anything, right? It's just the nature of the world we live in. So, legal and structure. What was that? Shoot, Jay Z had a line, and Jay Z is one of my favorite rappers of all time. He wasn't always, when he started just talking about diamonds and this and that. But I was listening to the business side of what he was doing in his music, and I was always intrigued by that. And one of the lines was, I forgot, but it was basically saying, the importance of, understanding, lawyer fees. Where he came from, that wasn't a big priority, but when he scaled up and leveled up to where he was, that was an issue, right? And things like that. So legal and structure is really, really important. And so it may be smart to hire a consultant or do the appropriate consultations, right? What about so 4 Data Points Academy is trademarked, right? So you can't, if somebody is out there doing something and they say, the 4 data points and they use it the wrong way, I'm coming after them, right? And I'm not going to be nice about it. I'm coming after them because that's the equivalent of stealing for me. But I had to have the conversation on how to do that. Now I can go on LegalZoom or whatever and figure it out that way, but I needed to where it was going to actually work, right? So we're trademark. What contracts do I need to have? All right. So I had to bring in an attorney to, review and structure contracts for me. Right. Now, that's the real estate education component of what we do. The contracts that I use in real estate, I can do a lot of those myself because I've been, exposed to this my entire life. But it's a conversation that needs to be had. So legal and structure is very, very important. Insurance, insurance, insurance. If you provide a service or have physical assets, insurance, insurance, insurance. Please don't overlook that. And it's something that I hate paying more than anything. As much as I pay in insurance, I should be walking away with something. I should be driving out of there with something. Right. So those are the basic 8 things in order to have a successful business that you need to address. If you don't have any of those things, then find somebody to help facilitate you getting those things. So Venture U is not just restricted to those 8 things. Venture U is a brand of 4 Data Points Academy that only focuses on business and entrepreneurship. And we are flying people like you guys have. I put the link in the chat. We are flying people out to Medellin, Colombia, and we are having these subject matter experts come and speak in the house. I got a 17-room villa, folks, that I'm putting everybody in. The
Hey, when you say we're flying people out, can you?
I'm actually flying the subject. I literally am flying the subject matter experts out. Well, I'm not flying the people that are, I'm subject matter
That's
experts.
that's why I wanted you to just clarify. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to get there. Like if you can't get there, you probably don't deserve to be there. But yeah, so I'm flying subject matter experts out. Some of them are already, James already lives in Medellin, Colombia, but it's something that I would have liked to have had because there's so many different aspects of business. It's like, all right, great. I'll go get a consultation over here from this attorney. Then I'll go talk to this CPA. Then I'll go talk to this marketing strategist. And then I'll go have a consultation with this guy to do my tech stack. And then I'll have a consultation with this developer. I need all of these people to be in the same room and understand my business so that they can talk to each other to determine what's best for me specifically. Because I've had to go back and forth so many times. It's like, this is, it's just, it can be cost prohibitive for some folks. So they are all going to be in the same house for 5 days. And when you leave, whether you're working a 9 to 5 job and you want to start a business, or you already have a business and you're trying to scale up, you will have that plan when you leave, and you will have access to those people while you're there at this property. And just to relieve all the stress, I got a private chef. So we're taking care of the food, we're taking care of the room and board, and we are knocking off every day at 4 p.m. and 2 p.m. on the weekends. Why? Because we got to have some balance. So we're going to go have some fun too. So I've got a concierge that's going to be, have certain places that we can go depending on what you like to do, lounges or whatever it is, or you can just go off on your own, right? And enjoy the city. And the location where we're going to be is in walking distance to a lot of cool stuff. So it is going to be great. There's only 16 people can go, and we already have people that have requested that I invoice them. I put that website in the chat. It is ventureu.live. This is the first, and we are going to try to make it as perfect as possible. So once you register for that, you'll get a link, and that link is going to be to a form, and it's going to ask you about 15 questions about your business so that we can come up with a certain plan for your business before you get there that you can build off of. All right. So we have to have an actual understanding of not just your business, or not just, so those are folks that are already in business that want to scale up. That's one side. But the people that are working a 9 to 5 that have an idea or maybe a side hustle that they want to turn into a business, we need to be able to research that for you so that we're prepared when you get there. So it's going to be good, and it's going to be the first of many. This is in October, going into Q4, right? Q4 entrepreneurs we already know Q4 of one year, we're already in Q1 of the following year. So that is going to be what it is. If you guys want to at least look at the brochure, you are more than welcome to do that. That is on the website. I recommend that you look at the entire brochure so you see exactly what it is that we're doing. Karen, I just invited you up. I don't know if you're, let me pull to refresh. Let me see. Karen on Clubhouse, go ahead, and there you are. How you doing, Karen? Karen going once.
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. How you doing? Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to repeat just the 8 items I can write it down.
Absolutely. So the 8 items, the most important areas of focus, not the end all be all, but the most important areas of focus in your business are market research, sales strategy, marketing strategy, product or service delivery. Number 5 is customer experience and retention. Number 6 is
Okay,
operations.
all those things.
Okay, Karen, I'll just email. I'll email them to you. You already in my real estate family.
Right.
I'll email it to you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. You're good. I'll email it to you. Okay. Was you trying to write all this down, Karen? I heard that. All right. So,
Yeah.
amen. So yeah. So now let's switch it up. So those are the now we're talking about running a business, but there's some other things that people need to understand. If you mess up, just own it. No one's going to be perfect. Don't get defensive and make excuses. In the course of business, if you mess up, own it. There's been times where I messed up, where I had to call somebody and they didn't even catch it. I had to call somebody and say, hey, you know what? I screwed this. I screwed this one thing up. This is how I'm going to fix it. And people like when I mess up because they know when I work it out, I'm going to make them better off than they would have been had I not messed up at all. Right. Because I'm extreme with it. All right. So that's just part of customer service. Okay. Also, be aware of how you present yourself in an online environment. There are people that I'm pretty sure have the potential to do good business that I will never do business with because they are too much of a liability. If you're on, now I'm not talking about if you're just shooting the you know what with a couple of friends on a podcast or whatever, but if you're in a business room or a certain environment where people are having serious conversations about business, please don't use profanity. You guys don't know it because you guys don't see it, but I'm ex-Navy. I cuss like a sailor. It's easier to communicate what I'm feeling in a lot less syllables, right? But you guys don't see that because this isn't the time and the place. So if you are, if you are somebody that likes to do a lot of say a lot of profanity, there's a time and a place for it. Okay. Also, take some pride in your product or service. Take some pride into it. It's never good enough. It's never good enough. I'm obsessed about trying to make it better and better and better and better and better. Right. So really focus on customer experience. And James, you can chime in if you have anything to add, but really focus on customer experience. Also understand, and I'm only speaking for our culture right now. I'm gonna switch it up to our culture right now. If you are somebody that is, you know, how do I say this? I have to work a lot harder because folks are out there cutting up. And there are people that I do business with that I have to almost prove myself because so many people have been exposed to the negative of the business practices from people that look like me. For a while, it seemed like every time I was turning on, on the internet or scrolling or whatever, there was somebody that looked like me getting indicted for something. All right. So really take to heart having that level of professionalism. Okay. Now, and look, I'm just telling you, if you somebody, even if you're not cussing, if you're talking slang and all of this and that, that's cool, right? That's cool for the right environment, but don't bring that into a business conversation because people associate that with a lack of class. I'm not saying that somebody that speaks that way doesn't have class. I'm saying people that are not familiar with our culture associate that with a lack of class. You don't know how to speak professionally when the time comes. Now, again, there's a time and place for everything. I'm not saying you can't speak like that, but again, if we're in a business conversation, leave that stuff for the barbershop. All right. And believe me, I've had to kind of quietly back out of certain conversations because I can't be associated with that. Another thing is be prepared to be lone. Go ahead.
So two things on the professionalism. Well, I forgot the first, so now just one. Oh no, yeah, okay. So communication. This is the first. Communication. Like when I develop business leaders, I have 3 competencies that I develop. One of them is communication, and the reason is everything you get done through your communication, right? You're talking to somebody, you're writing an email or a text, but everything is through your communication. So what I was talked about being professional through your communication is really, really important. And the second part that I saw this thing, it's kind of funny. I don't know where I saw it. It might have been online or like I don't know where I saw it at. But it was this guy, he was a business coach, and he was talking about how he's heard people saying, well, you see these billionaires walking around, in like jeans and a t-shirt, and some of them like swear or whatever. And he basically talking about, is it really important to do that? And then he said, yeah, but you're not a billionaire.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Mark Zuckerberg can do that. You can't. Yeah, well, Mark Zuckerberg walks around in a t-shirt. Well, a t-shirt is $400 a t-shirt, by the way. Right. And when you get to be Mark Zuckerberg, you can do that too. And that makes a lot of sense. You guys always see me, like the guys that you guys that see me on TikTok and all that other stuff. You see that I'm rocking one of 3 things: a black t-shirt, a gray t-shirt, a blue t-shirt, or a brown t-shirt. That is it. And I always got my 4 Data Points Academy hat on. And people were like, there are some people in this world that have never seen me outside of a suit, like especially in corporate. I've got, they've never seen me outside of a suit because, there's a time and a place for that. Now I don't need to wear a suit because most of the people that call me up need me. I don't have to, you know what I'm saying? So when you get to that level, just be cognizant of that. But there are still environments where I would wear a suit if I was going. Okay. I'm at home right now. I do a lot of my work right out of this office. Even when I'm investing in a project, before I see it, I do all my due diligence here, and I'll typically fly out there just to check on it. So just understand that how you present yourself is very, very important. Now this is for the ladies, and I don't mean to hurt your feelings if this applies to you. I'm not talking about to anybody in this room. I'm just talking about what I see. Um, if I'm going to do business with you, I don't care how pretty you are. So if I'm looking at your social media or whatever you're advertising, I don't need to see how big your backside is. I just don't. And I don't need to, that's because you're over sexualizing what it is that you're doing, right? So just keep that in mind. This is more for the younger women that I see out there, and it looks like you're just saying, "Hey, look at everybody, look at how pretty I am." Now, I'm gonna be harsh with you because I care about y'all. That will generate the wrong kind of attention, right? And we talk about time management, right? When you attract the wrong type of attention, ladies, men will occupy your time and not buy your service, right? And I'm sure some of you have encountered that. They will occupy your time,
Oh,
but
they sure would.
absolutely, right?
Oh, they sure would.
So I remember I was looking at I was so I support, I support different businesses. And when I'm looking to support a business, I've already made the decision to write you the check. So I don't have to be sold on it. And this is a conversation I was having some time ago, and it was about culturally, you know, we can be a little behind in certain areas culturally. So I support white businesses. I support businesses with single moms. I support black owned businesses. I support Asian businesses. I support, all the different groups, right? And this particular instances, I was supporting black owned businesses, and it was for insurance. And I called 5 people. Now, mind you, I'm just calling to write the check. You don't have to sell me. And it was insurance. I was getting property insurance on one of the homes that I had. And I had I didn't it was bad. And these folks, I'd found them on LinkedIn or found them on social media, and I didn't even get a call back. Uh, and I said, hey, and when I reached out, I was, hey, my name is Otis. I have a property located at such and such and such. I'm ready to get property insurance or homeowners insurance on it. 4 out of 5 times I didn't even get back. I didn't even get a call back. The fifth time I reached out to somebody on social media, and I said, hey, I'm ready. Here's the address, blah, 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 blah. Go ahead and just send me the invoice, and I'll go ahead and take care of it when you're ready. No invoice. I never got an invoice. And this person was on, social media working out, just basically just showing off her figure, working out. And I'm like, so guess who got it? There's still got people that got it, just happened to be, Caucasian. I didn't know they were. I just said, you know what, let me just find somebody online with good reviews. And they just happen to be, they happen not to look like me. So what does that say? Out of 5 out of 5. Now, there's a lot of people in that field that are really, really good, that look like me and do really, really good work. And I feel bad for them because those 5 people that I experienced makes that person that's actually doing it at the level that they're supposed to have to work 10 times harder. So I don't, I come down, I come down on folks. So I mean, there's people that there's people that fought and died so we could do what we do and be in this position. So I think people that are not taking their business seriously do a disservice, not just to those folks that sacrifice, but to the general public and the rest of us trying to do that. Now, I say that's not something that I typically articulate, but that's a conversation that we all need to have. We all need to hold ourselves accountable for the level of service that we provide. And we all need to hold ourselves accountable for the level of professionalism that we utilize when we are engaging with the general public. That being said, that's my so if anybody got offended by that, good, you should be offended.
Hey, you know what I find interesting, and maybe this is just my experience, but there are 3 professions that I feel like are notoriously horrible at answering the phone and getting back to you.
What's
One
that?
of them is insurance. Like, I can never get somebody on the phone to get insurance. I can never, like, it's horrible. Like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Second, our loan officers.
Really? I always have good.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes. If you find a good one, man, that's awesome. But man, like you always go into voicemail. They don't call you back. Like, come on, man. And then the third are property managers. Like,
Oh,
what are you doing all day? Like, what do you,
yeah.
like, why can't you answer the phone? You're a property manager. Like, what are you doing?
Yes. Yes. You guys that are landlords, please reach out to me for my landlord guide. We talk about systems. Now, we talked about the 8 systems that you need to focus on, or the 8 things you need to focus on in general business. Keep in mind, when you buy a property and you're going to rent it out, that property itself is a business. So you need to have systems in place to manage that business. You need to have somebody to manage that business. You know how many property managers I had to train to manage my own property? It is very, very good to find a good property manager in this country. Very, very hard. Not very, very good. It's very, very hard to find it. It was good too if you find a good one, but it's very, very hard. So keep that in mind also. I think that's where I see people exposed the most in the property management side. Just the liability associated with managing real estate is super, super high if you don't know what you're doing. These fair housing violations, if you do 3 fair housing violations, actual fair housing violations within 7 years, do you know how much that fine is? The third one's over $100,000. The second one's over $50,000 for fair housing violations. I see people violating that all the time. So if you guys are going to be landlords, make sure you know what you're doing. You guys in our real estate family, Landlord Launchpad is the guide. You wouldn't even need to talk to me if you have that. It tells you all the systems to set up and all the things you need to consider. All right. It is 10:31 and it is Tuesday. I got to get back to work. But what I did for everybody, I put the number in the chat if you are interested in any of the things that we talked about today. I put the link to our business retreat in Medellin, Colombia. If you are interested in that, if there's any questions for me, you can send them to that phone number, just text them or whatever. And then I'll make sure I get you guys taken care of. This is my time for Tuesday. We'll be on again Thursday. And I think Thursday may be the last time we're on Clubhouse for the foreseeable future. So if you guys are looking for me, you can find me on TikTok. We have a new TikTok page that we have, or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. And I'll make sure we get you guys taken care of. What's up, Nick? I appreciate that review too, Nick, man. I think that's going to be on our new website, brother. And everybody else who sent me a review, I really appreciate it. That being said, we're out. James, you got anything you want to add? Anybody on stage got anything they want to add before we get up out of here?
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. That being said, you folks in our real estate family, I'll see you in class tonight, 5 p.m. California time. You know what it is, 8 p.m. East Coast time. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Oh man, I gotta do this music again.